Afternoon, I can tell you we had a kind of like a break last week, but I am so looking forward to today because we're finishing up with the 80s and we're getting straight to the 90s. So, welcome to another episode of Sunday Scoops on this fine Sunday afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Big G alongside Richie Blackford, and we have a special guest this afternoon again for the third episode running. Mikey Bennett, and I hear some of some special person line up for it too.
Yeah, if not that,
Hopefully that happens. If it doesn't, we're still gonna have an awesome show anyway. So sit back, relax, bust a Heineken, Red Stripe, whatever you want to drink.
Get no advertising.
I mean, just a cuss you about the same thing. Why not tell you? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, just the top. Our guy just pointed out, and again, use the opportunity to welcome everybody
See,
to Sunday
top, me
Scoops.
no magic.
60 years. This program is, in essence, a tribute, a sort of a legacy program, tribute to the 60 years of fine music produced by our Jamaican artists, musicians, songwriters, everybody. And, you know, I know a couple of people have had some observations or made observations that we didn't include certain artists' music. What we're looking at is music that was produced in the particular year and the impact the music had on the
not just the local scene, but also internationally and the industry
during that year. There are a lot of music that became far more popular
long
1, 2, 3,
after they
4
were
years
produced,
after they were released, but that wouldn't qualify them for inclusion in this setup. And thing. But notwithstanding, it's a chronicling of the history of the music, and you know, we do our best to try to please. Yes,
and to give us a latitude, what we've also done is we've gone in and we've played 2 or 3 or 4 songs from a particular year, because it is very difficult to just take 2 songs out to define the industry at the time. Also, when we look at, especially coming up into the late 80s and into the 90s, when we had the mass production of rhythms and you have 15 songs per one rhythm, it gets, the task becomes even more arduous.
15 is a little bit.
When you talk about slang thing and
the man is here
and
himself,
couple of things.
Mikey Bennett.
Yes.
And
yes,
let's just bring him in while we do that. And God, I think it would be fitting if we do a quick rerun of 1 or 2 of the big tunes of the earlier episode, and then we sort of get just to get the ball running. But in the meantime, Mikey Bennett, welcome to Sunday Scoops again.
Yeah, man. Well, one last week, boss, and have me up and down a place.
Well, you know, I listen. We talk
me and the special guest. I don't know if I'm going to be able to join us today, but this he was ready last week. Yeah, I mean, so I've been looking forward. Like I said, I've been looking forward to continuing the conversation about the music, and you know, the more I think about it, like I said, you're going to think about some songs that not on the list. And that is fine. My brother was listening the other day and said, boy, I never remember some of the songs. And him spent 2-3 hours after the show just going back to and thing. So I think we're stirring up people's memory and mind, and we're doing great justice to the era.
Absolutely.
And that's the most we can ask of ourselves, I think, you know.
But, you know, Mikey, I think one of the things we have to, we here at Sunday Scoops, here at Yaawd Media, just want to, you know, endorse your participation, especially in these last couple of programs. Have been seminal. You know, it is important too that you have been a significant part of the industry, certainly over, you know, especially in that 1980s, 1990s period, when you were, as I said, a crucial part of that. And so it helps to, you know, add the oomph to the program, for want of a better descriptor. And this week we want to just sort of put the icing on the cake. Of course, yes, we're going to have some, you know, we're going to play some songs that maybe some people may not even be in agreement with, but that's not the point. The point is what we want to do is to put it out there that, you know, this is our legacy. And we're not, we are the ones who did it.
And we're not playing out the song, then we're just giving you a reminder of what the songs are, because we're just at 1987, so when you really look at it, we have 36 more years to go.
There you go.
Or 35 more years to go. So,
So,
we're probably going to be doing this up to December. We'll see how it goes. This is just part 3, and that's why we number it. But 2 quick songs coming from the early 80s and mid 80s would, I think, is befitting is this. And this is just purely my choice. Didn't do a consultation with Mr. Blackford or Mr. Bennett, but let's straighten you out with this one. Opposite end of the scales, we had straight reggae music, and then we have a wicked, not even just a dancehall tune, it's a sound-killing tune.
no, let's go. It is what you call an anthem. And I know, Mikey, I see you rearing to go to speak to that one. So over to you, boss.
No, you couldn't find 2 songs, 2 subject matter any more, any different sensibility. But yet, both of them had serious impact in Jamaica. Fine, probably some, resonated more among a certain, part of the population. But I think that spoke to the Jamaica at the time when there was more diversity in offering and diversity in consumption. So it's like, you could, but like for those of us in the industry and realize what that was taking place. In other words, I remember being at some Sunsplash or something when that song came out, and when the Ring the Alarm was playing, and it's like it just had this great art, it created this story in the place, and people were singing, and I think half of the people that were singing wasn't even aware that it was a sound killing song. Ring the Alarm was such a big song. Buffalo Soldier
posthumous
record company. This was big record company with video and thing, and so we were celebrating Marley's place in the international thing, and in a way we were kind of importing the importance of this song into the whole thing. So it was just one of them wonderful times, musical times in Jamaica,
You talk about the value, because here we have 2 songs telling, as you said, 2 different stories. And I remember Tenasa talking about the origin of Ring the Alarm. He was, of course, left us young. He was a youngster at the time on the stage, and apparently the sound clash wasn't necessarily working to the advantage or to the benefit of the sound that he was DJing on. And so literally that sound was really tearing off him sound clothes, and him saying run behind the stage, him get a piece of paper and start to jot down some little thing, ring the alarm, and him said those were just the opening salvo of the lyrics, and him just grab the mic and let it go, and that
the rest is history.
The rest of it is history. The Buffalo Soldier thing, to your point again, the symbolism of the role that African Americans played in the American Revolutionary War. Basically a forgotten piece of history, and it also again shows the caliber of Marley and his own songwriting, and how he had moved this thing away, not just from Jamaica, but topical, global, if you will.
And piggybacking on that, Richie, right away. So that was from 1983, and also played Ring the Alarm from 1985. We covered these 2 songs last week. However, we're stepping right into 1987, and I'm going to play a couple of songs from 1987 because we're almost fully into dancehall now. But there was one song which stood out to me in 1987. It's a song by Peter Tosh, and it also shows you, just as how Marley was aware of the historical perspective and effect of African Americans, or Africans who came to the Americas. Jamaica's always has this pulse on world, current affairs, and 1987 was also just after the Cold War had ended, and it was talking about nuclear energy and all of that stuff, and Peter Tosh came out with this song. Fresh on the Sunday afternoon. On Sunday afternoons, that was the time when as country people would go river go bathe, you know. So
Boy, I remember going to England some years ago, and my brethren introduced me to this lady where I go to the Sunday night, and she said, "But that's the night that they take me off." So I come out to all that French. But you know that Red Dragon song though, it took it when it just came out. I kind of wondered where the dickens this was going, but the song within a matter of days, the song just basically like a
just took on a life of its own.
Yeah, it took on a life of its own, and you couldn't get enough of it.
But here's the thing, though, I'm glad you played them song. Like I was just on a program talking about songwriting, and I tell my students, songwriting, who is talking to who about what, and what are the conditions that bring about the need to say this kind of thing. Now we're looking at two important things that was taking place in Jamaica. Have been taking place in Jamaica. One of them is Rastafari and its influence, and the who is the Rastaman talking to when he said them, or when he said this, or when he's talking about, including Babylon and things. And who is the youth in the sound? Who is the most important person? Now, Red Dragon is talking about is a dance, it's an experience that takes place in a dance. People are dance, some people don't smell good all the time. But you're talking about very parochial situation that people can relate to, right? The same thing with Half Pint. Half Pint was talking about, you know, how dancers were predisposed towards violence, and man come and slice like a thing, a man or fight, a man step, you know, touch his shoes and thing. But that was the reality of what them saw. I mean, even if they had risen above it by the time, but that was them life. Dance was them life. Dance was Tennessee life. That is why he was making the money. That was where he saw his relevance. He wasn't thinking beyond that thing there. Bob and Peter, on the other hand, had been exposed and had cast their view worldwide now. And listen, what is affecting us? Realize that what was affecting us in Jamaica didn't actually or necessarily start in or end in Jamaica, but we were under the big umbrella of world thing, and whatever happened was going to affect us. So they were helping us to cast our eyes asunder. It's like when you're listening to the news thing and you hear, oh, now for the international news, or you know, now the parochial news. So it's these two kind of situations that we were living in Jamaica. And some of us were living both of them, some of us even living some, but a large percentage of population just living one thing. Hand to mouth, survival, dances and release, that is the reality. And that is one of those are some of the hidden gems or the hidden clues into what was taking place in Jamaica. So to a sociologist, I'm sure them really want to see what is happening in Jamaica at a certain time. You just check what was the number one song in Jamaica, what was the set of songs in Jamaica. And I'm sure we're not even going to cover a small percentage of the total.
No, we can't. But it's so interesting that you make that point, Mikey, because Garth and I, I've been doing the show over the past couple of years, you know, we've always come back to the same thing, and here you echo the same sentiments. You want to know what's going on in Jamaica, listen to the music. Dancehall get a bad rap to some extent, and for me, you know, I honestly don't join that discussion, because I think it's just a small percentage of the music, and you can't use that to decry the thing. The music was always the newspaper of the street. It is the artist is speaking about the experiences of the people within those communities, his or her own experience, and essentially telling a story to those who don't know and who care to listen. And essentially that's what we're getting here. And you know, it's interesting that you're seeing the same
They weren't always the best read. When you go across to Trinidad, Sparrow was doing the same thing. Calypsonians are doing the same thing. I mean, there were the political reactions and things. The same thing was taking place in Jamaica. Just that when you live on a road and every night a song string up right at your head side and that's what you hear, or that is the only little relief you get, that way you can feel like you can put on some clothes and go, because life rough. You're not ready to cast your head beyond that right now. And that is what our music was doing. And there was something for everybody. There was something for everybody.
All right, let's get into 1988, which was today. Today marks exactly 34 years since you had this song. Mikey Bennett talked about hold up, people want to fight and thing, and Tansobak was right there. This was 1990, and I did a little creative faux pas there. I played a couple of songs before their time, but it's all well and good. We can still correct it. So I also played Shabba Ranks' Twice My Age, and then I played JC Lodge, Telephone Love, and of course, Love in Their Big Bad Song in 1988, which was done shortly after Gilbert. It was September 12th, and because today September 11th was in my mind. We're not even going to go there, so, but that was while Gilbert. We played two back-to-back Shabba. Can't Done, which was 1991, or 1990, that was on the Lion Attack, Punani Rhythm,
Oh,
and
what kind of rhythm?
the Punani Rhythm. But them time when you look at the rhythm them, because you had, what him name, Admiral Bailey, Gimme Punani. Again, we're in the rhythm-driven section, and even VP Records came up with a series called Rhythm Driven a couple of years later, because, again, you had once a man used to have an album with just 8 songs on it. Now you have a various artist album with 12, 15 songs on it, and featuring one
version
rhythm.
1 and version 2.
Yes, and then sometimes Jammies might do a field thing, and Bulby might do a thing or fight, and Fat Eyes do another thing, and Fatis do another thing, and different producers taking their take on the same rhythm.
Essentially, it was the era of the producers. Mikey, by this time you would have been.
The girl tune era too,
It was there?
Yeah, the girl them tune. It's pretty tough. It's a girl's tune.
Yeah.
To the producer said to him, yeah, girl tune or bad man or gun tune.
Yep.
And girl goes and him said, no, girl tune want a girl tune around the place. And if you remember Rory Stone of who did one join us last week. He said he was in New time with Twice My Age. And he was sure that dancehall was going to cross over with that song. It was not club one night waiting to play, and that song played for about 20 minutes straight. Every American. There's something familiar about the melody, which, like I said, grab something. But the lyrics, in other words, I think women in Jamaica started to express themselves, what they want, what kind of man they want, and it had the crews that was going to dance, just out and bling out.
Yep.
So there was a very, big, them had a very, very big presence. So a lot of the song they was talking about, whether it's Champion Lover, about the bubble. So there was this challenge, almost like the women were issuing a challenge to the man. You better can bring the agony, or you better this, or you better can, you know what I mean? A women were, people that was making them money, and they must come in a stool of dance, and they must decking out, and, they must buying the biggest champagne. It was an era when I said, okay. And a lot of that sensibility found way back into the studio. My boy named Lekim Samad referred to some of the songs by, some of the more the ones that we can't play by the man as signs of insecurity, sexual insecurity. Because, man, you go chop that and you kill it and you go stab it and I'm saying. So in other words, it was a time when the expression was just borderline. But I think what was the magic, the genius of that period of time is that a lot of the songs, they had the same excitement and force of the dancehall, but the lyrics were done in such a way that they could be played on the radio, suggestive enough for mature audience without.
We would call it.
We call it. So it brought this level of excitement and sex. I remember Vivian Scott from Columbia Records, Epic Records. I was in Jamaica one time and we went to a dance. And she said, should I never make her boyfriend come to Jamaica alone? See the girls.
Hold that thought, Mikey.
Yeah, we just covered a ton of songs in the last 9 and so minutes. Of course, going backwards, Bombastic Shaggy also, a Carolina remake of the Folk Brothers Carolina from back in the 60s or 59. We did Buju Banton. We did Dawn Penn, No 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 remake of her Studio One hit from in the 60s, remixed by Steely and Clevie. We did a Pepper Seed Rhythm, them time Dave Kelly in an Element, 1993. Big Things Are Going on the Pepper Seed Rhythm. And we also did Mutabaruka, People's Court, followed up by a part 2 about 2 years later. And then we did Dirtsman, Hot This Year. And of course, Buju Banton, Bogle. And couple of honorable mention. Marcia Griffiths revisited the Bob Andy catalog and did Fire Burning. We had a couple of Barry Hammond there, Buju Banton, Love Me Browning. That song, a lot of people speculated, as Richie would say, Dog Newspaper speculated, was talking about his firearm and Browning, but to make it palatably made it seem as if it was a female he was talking about, and then followed up by Love Me Black Woman, you know?
The devil was in the detail, you know, and depending on which detail you want to pay attention to. Without a doubt, Buju was at the time he came into the business. I remember my son was just going to prep school, and in fact, I think the first word he uttered when him started to talk was me love my bike, me love my car, me love my money and thing. So he learned to talk out of that thing. But again, it's showing up the kind of variety, the versatility of the artistic community, the musical artist community in Jamaica. And if you're just joining us, what we're doing is part 3 of the Jamaica's music legacy, 60 years of music. You know, I know Garth is trying to squeeze every song that was created in Jamaica over the program, but we can't do that. We want to just look at the songs that were huge in a particular year, and we try to cover that. Mikey Bennett, who has been with us for the last 2 series and is going to be rejoining us in a few minutes. But suffice to say, God, we have a rich music legacy, and I don't think we pay enough attention to it. I think we allow ourselves to get dragged into the weeds, if you will, and we're not paying attention to the value of the material that is coming out.
Yeah, and also mid-1990s, you're looking at somebody like Garnet Silk with a Mama Africa, Complain, Christ in his kingly character, you know, the career of Anthony B. with Ray DeBarn, you know, songs like that, Tony Rebel, Teach Your Children.
Again,
you know, what I'm just saying though is the 90s, because it was such a rhythm-driven decade between 1989 and say 1999. Even now, I mean, you still have multiple songs. Because even though it was dancehall and the music was starting to become, as we call it now, more disposable, there was still so much material being pushed out that for us to do that justice, we'll be sitting here till next year, Sunday, this time.
Not necessarily. I believe that, you know, if you look at, I mean, it's difficult, but it requires a certain amount of discipline too. We have 10 songs. The biggest song out of the 10 is what we want to take.
And then too, what was also happening was the juxtaposition of, as I said, the producers. A young Dave Kelly coming out of Tough Gang, going to work with Donovan Germain, a Penthouse, and then, you know, Donovan Germain was abroad, and then after he came back, he decided to say, yeah, I'm going to go off on his own, and Madhouse formed, and
I think
the era of Dave Kelly, brethren.
There was a trace in that.
Yeah, Big Man of the Money, that was the first song. The Boss. Yes,
but again,
the 90s.
Let's not get pulled into the weeds.
Yeah, and even Vibes Cartel, so, you know, or some of them guys today said, bad like 90s dancehall. So even the youth today recognize that 90s dancehall was the ish. Yeah, man.
No, Shaggy's bombastic, again, taking dancehall to another level. In fact, the record won a Grammy, eh?
Yep.
And again, you know, put the spotlight. we have always, well, certainly over the last couple of months, this argument is going the rounds in Jamaica about the negative influence of dancehall. I don't believe in the argument that somebody can sing a song and next man listen to that song and use it and go fire a gun after the next man. I don't believe in that. I believe that people have a predisposition towards violence and
they make every little thing better.
And any little thing. Absolutely.
And then the youth them so are going and write a song
what
about
we
what them
need
see
to
going
do is to take stock of what it is that the artists are trying to say. They are painting the picture that they are seeing, they are experiencing on the road. And it is out of this picture that they're creating that has produced the kind of reputation that Jamaica has built over the last 60 years, certainly, and that which we seek to celebrate with this program today. You gotten up to 1995 with Mr. Bombastic. I would love us to look at the next couple of years as we get into the turn of the century, and because again the music made some diametric shifts again by the time we got to
one
2000.
of the songs on one of the most popular rhythm, mid 1995, 96, is Tanya Stevens. You're not ready for this yet. I tell you, if you were in the studio today, the only thing left to fire inside there is gun. Remember me tell you, because this brethren beside me want to squeeze 20 years into half hour after we take 6 hours to do 20 years or the 40 years. I know him want to squeeze 20 years and a half hour. Because certain people never listen to music after 1986. So from 1986 to present, the past 36 years don't mean nothing to them. But it means something to me as a selector, as a DJ, as a man who loves music.
And me?
And magic. So 2 to 1.
And if Mike
is straight and it was here, I mean, I tell you the same thing.
Mike is who come back.
I look smart if you help with it today.
That's what it is. Anyway, let's talk about the songs we race. We, as you call it, we
rinse out.
True.
The songs where we rinse out.
Again.
You're talking about.
Guys. Remember what we're trying to do, because if we take that approach, you'll get all kind of bad name. 19X year, 19Y year, 19Z year. During this year, what is the top song of the year? Of course it's hard, and that's why we do this job.
Especially, Richie, when you look at, say, 1973.
Yeah.
In 1973, there probably was only 200 songs made. In 1993,
200 a week.
About 200 make a week.
200 a day. 200 a day. 200 a day. And
a lot of them were waste songs, and they were big songs, but you find that whereas in 1973 you could pinpoint, say, a good top 10. And even as a DJ today, you can't even keep up because there's so much songs being made today. It's even worse than in the 90s.
Implicit in that comment is a support for the position that I'd love us to operate from. Because a lot of the music was disposable. It was basically made, you make something today and the next man come tomorrow morning and it's something. And look at where we're moving from. In 1963, Bob Marley dropped a tune named Simmer Down. 63, when a 2-man and a dog have a record changer for play a record. The song sold 78,000 copies. No artist in Jamaica in the last 20 years has sold 78,000 copies of any record. Am I right or am I right?
Kinda.
No,
Shaggy still has sell record.
Me not talk about Shaggy and them at a different level, man. But if we're looking at where the music is, right?
No,
that's the role that we play.
And a lot of things affected that, you know. The duplicity of the rhythm. Multiplicity.
You are absolutely correct.
And don't forget that we also had the situation with technology.
The technology, and what happened with the technology is that it made for a higher proliferation of so-called music producers.
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yawdmedia.com, where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.